Okay, I've got more to say about flashcards. So if I can get this done without someone walking in here. Okay, let's see. This is from my notes that I had intended to include in the description on one of the playlists. Playlist number 2, I believe. Okay, let's see. Flashcards. Exception to my pro flashcard approach kicks in when dealing with 3 or more classes. Exception to my pro flashcard when dealing with 3 or more. Alright, flashcards are labor intensive. If you're juggling a full academic load, stick to using your hand to cover up the answers in your textbook. Your success as a student will depend on your ability to assess your priorities. Have you pushed non-academic considerations far enough away, or, assuming you're only taking 1 or 2 classes, can you adequately balance your academic and non-academic worlds? How do you do this? Flashcards. And I capped flashcards and put the 3 little exclamation things. Okay, I'll go back to having something to look at. Basically what I mean is it takes work to put the flashcards together, to organize the language materials, to really zero in on what you want to get out of whatever it is you're using, and to commit it to memory. That's a lot. Just that process is a lot right there. If you got a full academic schedule, that's ridiculous. You're doing extra work you're not required to do. The benefits are more geared to satisfying your own preferences and not necessarily the preferences of the person that's going to be grading you. And again, when you put yourself into that academic world, it is, the bottom line is you have to meet someone else's requirements, not necessarily your own. So flashcards are pretty labor intensive. That's a curriculum unto itself. So if you only have 1 or 2 courses, fine, great. You can take a course and plus get whatever it is you personally want out of it, because you can really just break it all down and and all that kind of stuff. That's not what school is really about. School is being able to juggle a lot of stuff, put up with a lot of stuff, adhere to someone else's regulations, and still perform adequately enough to get a decent grade. Alright, so it almost has nothing. That's a terrible thing to say, but it almost has nothing to do with actually learning stuff. Alright, it's learning stuff for someone else and getting in the habit of learning stuff for someone else. So it's very distinct realities. It's not the same. So why would you use flashcards in an academic setting at all? Even just one, it's still effective. It's effective. It's really good stuff. Yeah, you have to put everything into context. If it's so labor intensive, if you have a full academic, it's not practical to use that approach. So other things I found out about using flashcards: the simpler you make it, the more likely it is to fall into place. All right, the fewer steps to put something together, the more it'll be your go-to tool, because it'll be that straightforward, that accessible, and still, again, very effective. So things like not using just one card for one question, or one word, as I stated in the previous video. You're gonna have Mount Everest piles all over the place if you do it like that. Try to fit 4 to 5 questions or 4 to 5 words on the cards. If it's just words, you can probably fit 8 to 10, but it's usually not that straightforward. You usually have to throw in a question or two. So whatever format you use, 4 to 5 usually tends to be the average of how much you're able to fit on the card. I use ruled index cards. The initial questions I put on the blank side, and then the questions and answers I put on the side with lines, the ruled side. I include the questions and answers on the back side, on the side with lines, because I got sick of constantly flipping the card back and forth over, just flipping it over to make sure I had the right question or the right answer for the right question, so kind of thing. So it just got aggravating. So I put the questions or the words on the blank side, and then you flip it over, and on the side with the lines you put the questions again with the answers, so you're not constantly having to flip back and forth to make sure you're got the right, you tallied it up right, right question for the right answer. Another thing I found is that I only took out the flashcards when things were calm enough for me to really be able to focus in on it. That may not be your approach. You may take your flashcards on your commute, and even if you don't get a place to sit down, you may be the kind of person that you just want to be able to pull the flashcards out of your pocket, and as you're standing, go through it and everything like that. Which I can see that, but me personally, I never came to that point. If I couldn't get a seat on a train or bus or whatever it was, I didn't take out the flashcards. I usually had to be pretty quiet for a minute before even thinking to pull them out. I used to use a hole puncher, an individual hole puncher, and punch a hole in the upper left-hand corner. That's with the front of the card, the one that just has the questions. Looking at it that way, I used to punch a hole on the upper left-hand corner and then connect a bunch of flashcards using those metallic rings that you'll find in, I don't even know, what do they call those? Whatever. They have these like metallic rings you can use for your paperwork and whatnot. And I used to get those and just, have like 2-inch thick piles of flashcards and have that ring connecting all that. That's an extra step. Sometimes you can't find the rings unless you have a Staples or Office Depot or something, some major stationery store shop around. But you can't always find those rings. And you're taking up a considerable amount of space on the card itself. So you're wasting a lot of space on the card. pretty small card, an index card, right? You can't always find the rings. It's an additional step, and in my case, I never pulled out the cards in a situation where I was worried about dropping them and have all the cards scatter all over the place. But again, if I did fix, if I was so on top of things that I could do that without feeling haggard, just burning the candle at both ends kind of thing. Yeah, I'd keep on doing that, but I never did that. You've got enough pressure points and you're jumping enough hoops without making it harder on yourself by never allowing yourself any downtime. So if you're that kind of pushed, you may need to adjust a few things, because you're always going to be placed in these situations. You've got to learn how to basically take care of yourself, because no one else is going to even bother to just giving you any considerations for the most part. I mean, so it's, yeah, that's pushing yourself too hard. Allow yourself some downtime. Take out the flashcards if everything's kind of settled down and you've got time to just go through it and review at your leisure. Because if you're just burning it at both ends, believe me, there are people more than happy to run you into the ground. So you are developing an attitude and mentality that will allow others to exploit. And it's not going to turn out good for you. All right, don't expect any kind of loyalty or fair play from employers or anyone else for that matter. It's really gotten dog eat dog, and a lot of desperate people out there. And even when you get to a decent stratus, I don't know, level, you're going to find you're probably in a constant one-upmanship atmosphere. It's gotten very competitive, very ugly. No, if you're not taking care of yourself, you're not being taken care of, because no one else is going to do it. Yeah, it's not good to develop that kind of attitude, because there are so many just anxious to exploit it. So it's not worth it. But whatever. If you just have to, I don't know. If you have to have that killer attitude and you're just gonna burn your way through everything and whatever, fine. Get the puncture the holes, get the rings, and carry your 2-inch flashcard piles everywhere you go. Don't allow yourself any downtime, whatever. Or maybe you're just clumsy and you drop them even when you're not commuting or whatever it is. So you find that it's useful to use to connect them anyway. At this point, I just use a rubber band. So I have that extra space I can use on the card. It's one less thing I have to deal with, trying to find these little rings. And it's if you look, you'll find rubber bands, but you won't necessarily find the rings. So it's just the fewer steps you need to do something, the more straightforward something is, the more effective it's going to be, the more it's going to fall into place, the more likely you're going to use it as your go-to method, and it is very effective. Like I said, I'm a big believer in flashcards. So that was, I wanted to throw out the finer points on how to manage flashcards. and the exceptions to using flashcards and things to look out for. All right. If anything else occurs to me, I'll include it in the notes in the description. Talk to you later.